Welcome to this week's episode of 30-Minute Reviews. If you read the title, then you know that this is just a me episode. Peter's been having some issues recently with getting his internet up online. We've been a few weeks without an episode, so I figured might as well discuss some things that I don't want to particularly waste his time with while he's here. We have enough backed up stuff to talk about while we're on the show when we come back with that next week. When we come back with the African Queen, which was a surprisingly good movie, but we'll talk about that more next week when Peter's here. Today I have two major topics to talk about. Number one, the release on both Tuesday and Friday of Madden NFL 2018, a game that I buy annually. And the new Yu-Gi-Oh card, the gameplay changes that have taken effect with the most recent deck that came out. I'll start out with the Yu-Gi-Oh thing because that's what the title of the episode is, and I don't want to bury the lead too much on that. The rule changes, I'm on the fence about them. I haven't played competitively since like 2013 or right after the big IXI update, which for those of you who are listening to the show and have a approximate knowledge of Yu-Gi-Oh because you watched the TV show or something like that, after the fusion and the ritual monsters, which everyone knows, the ritual monsters put into your deck, fusion monsters go into what's called the extra deck on the side. They introduced what's called synchro monsters, which is a new type of monster, which was similar to fusion but didn't require polymerization, but did require a very specific combination of monsters. So, like, in my hand now I have one of the fusion monsters. That's not a visual podcast, so you can't really see it. I have Azure Eyes Silver Dragon, which has required a tuner and a non-tuner monster, but the tuner and the non-tuner had to equal to 4, 6, 8, 9 stars total. And then you attribute both of them to special summon this from your extra deck. Once this came out, this dominated the metagame for a bit because of it made it simpler to get these incredibly strong monsters out. Because rather than, it was a mix. In my opinion, you could have done either because a lot of people tend to forget, or at least I tend to forget, if you're going to use polymerization, you can use it from your hand. Same thing with dragons if you're running a dragon-themed deck. But it was a mixed bag, and a lot of people took to synchros and started using them a lot. Especially considering you were able to combo them together and create really powerful synchro monsters pretty easy with this system. Then came the IXI update, which is just spelled XYZ. These cards were black. I don't think I have one of these on hand because around this time when I was stopped, playing the game and kind of fell out with the rules. Maybe I do have one. No, I don't. Well, around that time they got rid of. They introduced the IXI monster, which was similar to Synchro. You needed to have both monsters on the field, and you needed to have two monsters of equal level, and you needed to stack them underneath the IXI monster. And what that would do is it was the same thing, but all of the effects of IXI monsters are based on discarding or banishing, which is what they now call remove from play, the materials that are underneath it. And that was another thing that vastly changed the game, and a lot of people really took to that one too. The update after that introduced what's called pendulum monsters, and I only have cards of that because when they introduced pendulum, that's when I completely stopped playing, because pendulum at its first introduction was horrifically broken. And the fact that they released the game into this new meta with this as a possibility of happening is a little ridiculous. Because number one, pendulum summoning did not retroactively go back and change the text on older cards. So, like, right here I have one. Well, I can't really use Blue Eyes Shining because that one's not good for this example. Let me see, what have I got here? Okay, I've got Alexandrite Dragon, which has an attack power of 2,000. Luster Dragon, which has an attack power of 1,900. And yeah, I can't use Blue Eyes either for the example that I have in my hand right now. So what you would do for pendulum summoning is pendulum monsters are monsters that count as both a pendulum as a spell card and as a monster card. And the way that was unique is there were these two zones on either side of the field called pendulum zones. And you would activate the pendulum monsters. So I'll use the two that I have here. I have Dragon Pit Magician and Purple Poison Magician, because I used a coupon at Target and bought 3 of these packs for pendulum cards. So I would activate, on the left-hand side, I would activate Purple Poison Magician, and the spell effect of the card would take effect. Then on the right-hand side, I would activate Dragon Pit Magician, which its spell effect would happen. Now, if you look at after that, on either side of the card, there's a value, and for this card, it's 1 on the left for Purple Poison Magician, and 8 on the right for Dragon Pit Magician. So when you pendulum summon, you can summon any number of monsters from your hand, as long as their rank their level falls between those two. So you can summon as many as you want, 2 to 7 star monsters, which is also bad because if you use that in conjunction with a tuner and a regular monster, you can synchro summon your first turn, you can Ixie summon your first turn, and you can basically create a wall that would make you very hard to beat. Fortunately, that was fixed in the new update. That was one of the 2 major rule changes that took effect with this new deck, which I don't have the deck thing on hand. I have the new mat, which probably has it on it somewhere. The new playmat. The new playmat makes it where the old Ixie cards are no longer in their own zone off to the side. Pendulum, I mean. The leftmost and rightmost spell and trap cards are the pendulum zones, which limits you to, if you're going to pendulum summon, you can only have 3 spells or traps on the field, which now requires you to use strategy. Am I going to limit myself in that way, or am I going to, go with having the availability to use spell and traps? Even if you have 2 pendulum monsters, and then you have in your hand Solemn Warning or Trap Hole or something like that, you can set those, but then you only have 1 spot left to use a polymerization or something else. Which, let's just say that's not a big deal anymore, because of what's called the Extra Monster Zone. The Extra Monster Zone is a 6th monster zone that you can take control of. And there are 2 of them, 1 for each player. And I can't show you because it's not a video podcast, but the Extra Monster Zone is above the main monster zone, which is still laid out the same as it used to be, but there are 2, 1 for each player. Once you have, that's where your monsters from your extra deck go. So when you summon a monster from your extra deck, it occupies that side. So let's say I synchro Azure Eye Silver Dragon, because again that's the one I have on hand. I put that there, that's it, done. No more synchro, no more fusion, no more link, nothing. So it limits the number of synchro monsters that you can have on the field. So this ruins a sizable amount of decks. Anything fusion-based, so one of the ones that's got the biggest gripes, because it's still pretty commonly run, Elemental Heroes is pretty badly damaged by this. And Elemental Heroes is always one of my favorite decks to, run. So that's a problem that came about. Also, a good amount of other things, like if you were running a dragon deck based on Red Dragon Archfiend or Stardust Dragon, then you're also kind of screwed, because you can't get to Shooting Star Dragon or Shooting Quasar Dragon without having a second Synchro monster. You would need a 2-star Synchro Tuner to Synchro into that. So therein lies your big issue here, as to why this is a thing. Fortunately, they thought about that, and they introduced these new monsters called Link Monsters. So the Link Monsters are the 3 that it comes with in this new deck are called Honeybot, Decode Talker, and Link Spider. And if you've watched any videos prior to this on YouTube talking about this big change, you're sick and tired of hearing of these names as much as I am. So, so far what I've been able to see, the best combo with these would be and I haven't really picked apart the deck yet. I was trying to figure out how to link monsters work, and I was reading the instructions and reading tutorials on the internet because they never made the instruction booklet they give you is never easy. You gotta drive the views to the website somehow. If I were to try and get as many spots open, I would use Decode Talker in your extra monster zone because that would unlock 2 more spaces, and then also put Link Honeybot in the one on the middle of the field that gets opened up by your extra monster zone. So then you have 1, 2, 3 more zones open. Now, one of the things I haven't seen answered in any of these tutorials is what happens if Decode Talker gets killed or gets destroyed or banished in some way. They don't really address that, but one of the other tutorials I watched from Konami does say that. Like, let's say, again, I have Azure Eyes. Azure Eyes gets destroyed by battle, sent to the graveyard. I use an effect to bring it back. It can go right back to the main monster zone. I think it's just designed where if you're going to summon for the first time from the extra deck, it has to go into that zone, because even pendulum monsters that are destroyed by battle that go to the extra deck end up having to go into a link zone before they can come back to the field fully. So that this does a very good job of limiting things, but and this is sounding like someone who gripes because I used to run a dragon deck when I played. This is sounding like a complainer from someone who's negatively affected by it, but I think there was definitely a better way to do this. They could have just implemented a rule change to fix it, because I also noticed their rule change. To be fair, this could have been a lot older, this rule change, and I'm just noticing it now. You can't draw on your first turn anymore. So if you go first, so the person who goes first can no longer. They were always not allowed to attack first, because that wouldn't be fair. Because like if you comboed into a 5,000 monster somehow, or if you under the old rules, in the event that you were able to attack first, you could feasibly take out 5,000 life points if you summoned from a dragon deck 5 dragons and a polymerization, because you can just fusion summon 5-headed dragon, which has 5,000 attack right there. So I think it's for the best that they changed it where you can't draw, because a lot of combos do require that 6th card. So yeah, I mean we'll see how this plays out going forward. If there's any interest in this, you can let us know either on Twitter, on our new Facebook page, or on our website. I have a contact page. I'm considering doing a show just on trading card games. If there's interest, I'll definitely do it. We'll make this into a backdoor pilot if need be. So we'll see about that though. And our other big story this week is Madden. Depending on who you ask, and really, Madden doesn't really change from year to year. Ultimate Team is back, same as last year. If you played Ultimate Team, it's fine. It's the same as last year. There's this new thing, squads. I can't figure out how to do that because I don't play online with people to begin with. So I tried Ultimate Team, and again I get stuck with the thing where the matchmaking still isn't based on your level. It's based on just whoever's online, which is a complaint I had last year about it when I started. I started about 2 months ago in 17's Ultimate Team, and I ended up getting paired off with someone. I had a rank 68 team. I got paired off with someone who had a rank 99 team, and that was not a fun game at all. So the matchmaking needs work, because again, I did this. I got paired up with someone the first time who might have bought cards, might have just played through more of the solo challenge and didn't want to jump right into, what's it called? They didn't want to jump right into the online, the player v player mode. So that hurts you if you don't jump right in, if you don't do solo challenges. And franchise is back, and from what I can tell so far, I haven't played through an entire season yet. What I can tell so far is they never quite, they didn't fix my biggest gripe, which is too much focus is based on returning players. There's not enough on newer players and drafting, which is fine for what the game is, but then you got people like me. I mean, it really, when I talk about what my problem with the game is, it really just how it affected me negatively. My biggest problem was I like to do what I've called on field commentary by the unqualified a West Coast style of team building, which I think I've heard it used by someone else too. I don't want to take full credit for it. I probably picked that up from someone, I just can't remember who. Expansion teams needed to become great when they were created by taking by putting a lot of money into drafting and put a lot of money into scouting out new people. The scouting system was implemented in a better respect in 17, and they did a lot of work to revamp the scouting system. But once you draft the players, their experience is very low, and they have very low rankings. And the game still doesn't have an experience system designed to bring these players up fast, so that way they could be viable in a regular season game as a rookie. Unless you set the skill really low by the computers and just wreck the computer, which I don't mind doing from time to time, or you just hope for the best and try and run them anyway, and they somehow win Rookie of the Year. That's really the only way they get them to progress any. So those are my two bigger complaints. This year Madden introduced, and I said in the 30-minute reviews, it's kind of like EA heard the complaints about not having a campaign mode in Battlefront, and said, we'll just put a campaign in everything. It's called Long Shot. It's a campaign in Madden. And I go back and forth on how I feel about this. Because basically the story is, I'm going to spoil the story a little bit, but quite honestly, no one's picking up Madden to play Long Shot. Everyone's playing to play online with their friends. Long Shot's a story of two kids who grow up in Texas, and they get a shot to, and they're trying to, become NFL stars. So, pretty straightforward story. You play as, I forgot his name, and your friend's name is Colt. And your friend's a little bit of an asshole the entire time, but that's not the point. As you play through the story, it starts out where you go to the Combine and you get picked up by a talent scout who's looking for someone to be on a TV show, and you end up on a TV show called The Long Shot about a kid who wants to, become a star, and it's a reality TV show. That's where the game loses me a little bit. For me, the story that they're starting out with is something that, while it may not be relatable to everyone has it. Basically every kid has a dream of doing something great, be it being an astronaut, or a lot of kids around the country have the dream of being a professional sports player. Like, it's not an uncommon thing. So you have a kid who has the opportunity, and you take it, and rather than following the emotional journey, and you have Best Supporting Actor winning Mahershala Ali playing your character's father via motion capture, and there's too many things that I have going on with this. Number one, the gameplay I have a huge problem with. That's my number one problem. If you're gonna do a story mode in a video game and you're gonna give quick time events, that's fine, because you gotta progress the story. There has to be key moments that you can't screw up and do that. However, there do have to be things that influence the game in some way, and the game doesn't have any meaningful choices that influence the ending. You always end up getting drafted by the team you pick in an interview. There is no branching story. It always ends the same way. That's problem number one. Problem number two with the gameplay is a lot of times the game just dumps you into scenarios, doesn't tell you what's going on or what you have to do. For example, the first thing you do when you're on the TV show is a mini game where you gotta throw footballs at targets, but the controls aren't explained to you. They kind of just show up on the side. They don't give you this is a game mode that's never again recreated or referenced again. There's a similar one later on when you play with Dan Marino at a military base, but they don't really explain to you how the targeting system works or anything like that, which makes the game a little bit frustrating. It took me 2 tries to do it. It just makes it a little bit frustrating. They don't quite give you enough time to read and answer the choices. Because the thing is, when you have options and when you have text on the screen, you always should give the reader of the text. You should always read it and give yourself 2 pass-throughs, and even more so if you're expecting them to respond to it in a choose-your-own-story kind of way. The game doesn't really give you the chance to do that. So that was my other problem with the game. Larger than that, the story really annoyed me because there's a lot of basis here for a great story. You're before the story starts, it picks up when you go into the combine. Your character was quarterback for University of Texas, and in his last game, he threw an interception because he was trying to be a hero, and he threw an interception. So he's trying to redeem himself in that respect. That happened right after his father died, and as a result, he completely shuts down and joins the army to find solitude and find his purpose. There are so many good things and good elements of this story that can be used to create something that actually has an emotional impact on the player, but none of it quite comes through because it's played through this game show, rather than the quest of this player through the combine, through the draft, and getting onto a team, which would have been a better story. And that's my biggest complaint with this, is that you can tell the foundation is there. The foundation for a great story is there, and you can see all of the elements of it. And even like Colt's character, where he's a supporting friend through anything. There's a falling out scene, which is at the end of the second act, which is great. But they, again, the problem is you don't have, when you bring it back to the game show, and a lot of the drama in the game is founded by the fact that you don't get along with the producer, which you can do anyway if you were doing an actual story, where just replace producer on the show with what's it called, an agent who sees you at the combine and wants to get you drafted, and he's overbearing and he's doing what he thinks is best for you, but not what actually is best for you. There are so many other ways you could have taken this story and had it fit in nicely, but again, they just kind of fall flat because they don't exactly try to. They don't really try to bring you into to an emotional feeling in this. But what I'm going to say next is, next year, in long shot, now that we have the foundation in terms of the base gameplay and the base everything that's going to go into a good video game, and even the basis of a good story, next year's long shot better be fucking amazing, because you have so much already set up. The groundwork is there. All you have to do is execute now, and you need to expand upon what you already have. And I think that's it with Madden. If you don't have Madden, I suggest you get it, just because it's a fun game. If you have an Xbox and you enjoy playing games with your friends, or you have a PlayStation, you enjoy playing games with your friends, definitely get Madden, because it's like, sports video games are a staple of what makes video game playing great. Because it's the team aspect and the working with other people and that whole thing, and this game really does expand upon that in a meaningful way. I don't recommend Ultimate Team if you did not get the Goat Edition, because I did get the Goat Edition, because on top of being a fan of video games, I do enjoy sports, and I have the theory that the Madden curse is going to get a disturbing turn this year, and Tom Brady's going to have a career-ending injury on the field. Because, for those of you who don't know what the Madden curse is that whoever appears on the cover of Madden has a worse season than the previous, or they have a catastrophic injury. The first player to really high-profile break the curse was Brett Favre, who retired the year after he appeared on Madden, and then ended up on the Jets. So, I mean, he kind of fell back into the curse, but no one really talks about that. So I do think that I do think that buying the Gold Edition was me doing my part to end Tom Brady's career. Because the Madden gods are wrathful, and you don't go onto the cover of Madden and call yourself the greatest of all time without expecting retribution. So this will be a fun year. But I do. What else do I want to address? Let me see. Was there anything else I want to talk about before I sign off on the special episode? I recently started Mario and Luigi Paper Jam for the 3DS. I don't quite know if the game has started yet or if I'm still in a tutorial, because the game doesn't quite explain that to you or make any indication to you that you've started the quest or what the quest is or what you're doing. It's a fun game. Like, all these Mario and Luigi games are really fun, and I do really look forward to Superstar Sega, the director's cut that comes out this year. But it doesn't quite. This game doesn't quite tell you where you are as the game goes on. And I think that's it. At some point, we're going to be doing a second viewing of Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll be doing that on Beware of Spoilers, because Guardians of the Galaxy has come out on DVD. I know I've been bad about making sure the website is updated with new content for our blog section, but I will get back on that. As well as I will finish The Defenders, and I'll probably do an Adam reviews on that, because I don't think that either of my other co-hosts on 30 Minute Reviews are going to finish the show around the same time I do, and I want to rewatch it. So yeah, we will be back hopefully within the next week with the African Queen. We have not forgotten. We've just been incredibly busy with moving and this, that, the other thing. So yeah, so that'll be where we sign off for tonight. This has been Adam Reviews. Maybe I will do another Yu-Gi-Oh episode, or maybe I'll talk about the new changes to Pokemon card rules. Who knows? We'll see. It's all expensive to do anyway, so we'll be back with that. Goodbye.